It's now 6:05, and we were supposed to start this meeting at 6 o'clock. If anyone would like to address this town meeting tonight, please fill out this form and give it to me, and we will proceed from that point on. I'm going to follow the agenda. Yes, please. I will tell you exactly what it is that we're going to do at this point. We're going to call for the approval of the minutes. Then we will call for nominations from your group or from the electors here to elect a moderator to moderate this meeting tonight. And then we will proceed with the agenda according to the way it is presented. Okay, can we have a motion to, if you had an opportunity to read the minutes from last year? Okay. I need a motion to approve the minutes, and can I get your name, please?
Charlie Slick.
I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Weissman? It's been moved and seconded that the minutes be approved. I would like you to take a moment to read them, see if there's any corrections that you would like to have to these minutes. If there are no corrections for the minutes, I will call for the vote. All of those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, may I have aye? Aye. All of those that are opposed, may I have nay? The ayes have it, the minutes are approved. At this point right now, we will have nominations from the floor for electors. And that person will moderate, well, the election of a moderator for this meeting tonight.
Can I nominate Phyllis Carter?
I'm the clerk, I'm taking the minutes. I don't want to do it.
Charlie, nominate Charlie Slick.
Yes, you can.
Well, I do.
Do you accept, Mr. Smith? Okay. All right, and you are? Okay, are there any other nominations from the floor for moderator? If there are no more nominations from the floor, then it's in order to have a voice vote to nominate Mr. Smythe as moderator of this meeting. All those in favor, may I have aye, please? Aye. All those opposed, may I have the nay? The ayes have it. Mr. Smythe, would you please come forward? Okay, what we have to do right now, Charlie, is that we have to take the oath of office of moderator. And this is an oath of moderator for the town meeting. Raise your right hand, please. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
of moderator of this town meeting.
of moderator of this town meeting.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you very much. I can appreciate it. Okay, I'm now turning this meeting over to Mr. Smart.
Parliamentary request on the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Are there rules for this meeting that like special rules of order that go that carry from year to year? And if so, where are they?
We have now some clerk about that.
I think the mic is not on, by the way.
Yes. Is it working now?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
It's
not.
The annual town meeting is actually a mechanism for the electors of the township to be able to voice their opinions and their concerns about issues that they feel directly affect the township. Those are the only rules that we have set out. This is something that has to be done every year at this time. So I'm not sure, Carol, what exactly it is that you're wanting rules for, but that's what it is. And if there's anything more that I can give you, then I will get it for you out of the statutes and you can get it from my office. Yeah, we still operate under Robert's Rule of Order. Yes.
I move that this body be asked whether they want to accept Robert's Rules of Order as the rules for this meeting.
Do you have an alternate as to what you could use if you didn't want to use Robert's Rule?
I guess I'm suggesting that would be a good thing to go by. I brought the book, but.
Well, I think by default, we're in the Robert's Rules of Order, so, I mean, so unless there's an alternative, that's what we'll be running with.
Formalize it.
You can formalize it. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll run through Robert's Rules of Order. There's an order in the agenda, and that next is public input. We have one person here to speak. That's filled out a card. If anybody else wants to speak, please fill out a card and we'll get a tuning here. I believe you have 5 minutes.
Yes.
You have 5 minutes. There's an additional. Okay, Michael Weissman, you're up first.
It's a small. What I wanted to do was present a friendly amendment to the last item on the agenda. Previous discussion with Champaign City Council, which is also the Urbana City Council, which is also the Cunningham Township Board, suggested that the wording on the version that was handed out was slightly too general and vague. So we have a friendly amendment, namely by myself, to our. Can you pass this one? Thanks. Which just makes the venues in which these free speech regulations drafted by the council would apply a little more specific. It would only be big stores, parking lots, and malls, not any sort of vague thing that might be interpreted as apartment buildings. I don't know whether, is this the appropriate point to talk to that item, or, you know? Okay, so the reason, the rationale behind this item, which is the last one on the agenda, is simply that we're all sick of hearing sound bites funded by multi-billionaires all the time instead of ordinary political speech.
Point of order.
I think you should let the speaker finish speaking first.
We've accepted Robert's Rules of Order.
I don't know that you can interrupt the speaker.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
That the full motion should be read in its entirety by the chair, and then
Okay, well, actually,
there should be a call for a second.
Okay, well, actually, from our attorney, I've been informed that the wording cannot be changed. And as it's presented, it has to be voted on as it's presented.
As it's on the petition.
As it's on the petition. So I think what we can do is discuss an alternative. What I'm going to suggest is voting on the alternative at the point that it comes up, and then submit it to our attorney to clarify that.
Okay.
But we should take a vote on the wording that's there, and then we should read the motion, and then the alternative motion at the time it's on the agenda.
Okay.
But I think you should speak to the motion in general.
Okay. The modifications I should mention are very small, just to make it more specific. They don't in any way contradict the motion as it was originally submitted. The idea, again, is that most political speech that we're exposed to is this garbage on TV that everybody's sick of all across the political spectrum. And it would be nice to have some of the traditional methods, inexpensive methods of citizens communicating with each other. We have the internet, but as everybody knows, that forms little pockets of like-minded people. It doesn't really replace broad-based citizen communication. The traditional way of communicating with people would be, say, leafleting in a public square. The problem is, if you think of where is the actual public that you can get to without asking cars to stop and passing leaflets through windows, you look down the street and you see there's Schnucks, Gin, Tanning Place, all these places. They're 100 feet or so off the public sidewalk. And so we need a little technical fix where we say that those sidewalks and open areas that play the same role that officially public space used to play would be treated as public space in the sense that well-regulated, non-disruptive free speech would be allowed there. Not something that would get in the way of commerce or anything like that. There's an example of how this can work in California, where it came in not by statute, but by interpretation of the California state constitution. There's some version in Massachusetts, and I think also in New York. Obviously, malls have not fled California, Massachusetts, and New York. Basic commerce continues unimpeded, so we know that this is not a pie-in-the-sky idea. And as far as the details of any actual laws and the specific regulations go, it's impractical to try and include those in a resolution like that. Those will be worked out by the city council, township board, whatever it's going to, in consultation with the merchants, so as not to irritate them too much and work out something that everybody could live with, who would, again, allow traditional free speech, despite the fact that people were in cars on public streets. Rather than keep talking, I'd rather see if I can respond to any questions on that.
Are there any questions for Mr. Weisel? And what I'll do is I'll read each of the referendum items at the time that we get to it on the agenda.
That doesn't work. That's
This is not working. Okay, I'm just going to
It's a no.
check it, Jason.
Talk loud.
I'll just talk loud. Okay. I'll have Jason check it. We're trying to record it for broadcast and for the record too. So. Okay. Next up is Colin Holmes, 403 West Park, apartment 3.
I have some question as well. The item I saw printed out.
Louder.
Okay. The item I saw on the table printed out regarding the resolution I introduced is actually printed out different from what is on the petition. So again, is that something that would be
Corrections can be made.
Okay.
So if it's incorrectly stated, then we can correct it. And if you've got the corrected version, Carol,
Phyllis should have it, I don't.
we can read the corrected version and then at the time and then make sure that it got to the petition.
Okay. So I have my notes on this.
Okay.
Try them on camera, see if it works.
Okay. Okay. So basically, it's working. Cool. Okay. So the item I introduced is the one on the Citizens United Supreme Court decision. It's part of a larger campaign. There's a group called Move to Amend. And I recognize it requires action on a state level, really, to get at the campaign financing law that affects Illinois. But I think the township process is the best way to get citizen input on this issue. I became politically active in Missouri, and their citizens could actually petition with an initiative of their own to then vote on it statewide. And when I came to Illinois, I realized that didn't exist here. So what is occurring is there are groups, some affiliated with Move to Amend, other organizations like Common Cause, across the state who are trying to get their townships to vote on the issue of corporate personhood and campaign finance. And so I guess we'll read the item later. This would be to add it to the November ballot, and then, so that we could get citizen input, and then send the leaders on to the item that legislatures and state capital could pick up and hopefully do something that will curb the campaign spending as it's occurring all the time.
Next up is Neil Parkland, 705 East Colorado, 105. Neil? And if anyone else wants to address the body, please turn in a yellow sheet.
I'm here to speak in favor of the two proposals on the floor, because I believe a corporation is not a person. I believe only a person is a person. Quite famously, because corporations have no soul to save or wanting to incarcerate. And so I'm very much looking at, I believe it is the township level, growing up these grassroots movements, that this is the appropriate venue to take on this issue. That we start building the tidal wave to make money interests in the state of Illinois and Springfield, or nationally in Washington, D.C., realize that this has been a terrible decision, probably one of the worst ones since Plessy versus Ferguson or Dred Scott. And so it is at the township level, this is an appropriate time to take.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any more public input? Seeing none, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, and then we'll talk about we'll present the two referendum items later in the agenda. Next up is the annual financial statement of the supervisor for fiscal year 2010-2011. Carol?
Well, I think your choices are to read the statement out loud, or you can have a motion to waive the reading of the financial statement and place it on file.
Let me read the first paragraph, and at least the annual financial statement. The following financial statement made by the supervisor of Cunningham Township of the financial affairs of the township during the fiscal year ending the 30th of June 2011 is made to provide information to the public and to comply with Illinois law concerning the duties of township supervisor described in 60 Illinois Consolidated Statutes 1/70-15. The supervisor shall, within 30 days before the annual township meeting, prepare and file with the township clerk a full statement of the financial affairs of the township showing, 1, the balance, if any, received by the supervisor from his or her predecessor in office or from any other source. 2, the amount of tax levied the preceding year for the payment of township indebtedness and charges. 3, the amount collected and paid over to the supervisor as supervisor. 4, the amount paid out by the supervisor and on what account, including any amount paid out on township indebtedness, specifying the nature of the amount of township indebtedness, and the amount paid on interest account. And 5, the amount and kind of all outstanding indebtedness due and unpaid, the amount and kind of indebtedness not yet due, and when the indebtedness not yet due will mature. The township clerk shall record the statement in the record book of the township as soon as it is filed, and shall post a copy of the statement at the place of holding the annual township meeting 2 days before the meeting is held. And if you turn to pages 3, it indicates that the total tax levy was $1,144,178, the amount in 2010, and the amount collected in 2009 was $1,127,182. Pages 4 and 5 detail the town fund administration, town fund assessor, provide total and town fund grant amounts. That continue on to page 6. The rest of page 6 is the total town fund and the total general assistance fund and so on, as indicated on the form in front of you. I will entertain a motion to accept or approve.
You can ask a question?
Probably accept. to fill the blank.
Let's get a motion out first. Move to accept, a motion to accept the financial report of the Township Supervisor with the order. So moved. It's been moved by Michael Ball and seconded by Michael Weissman. And there was a question here, Susan?
Yeah, I just wondered, under the salaries, the fourth one down is other. It's the other side of the line.
Salaries other. Carol, can you explain this?
Sure. The township offices are comprised of elected officials and non-elected employees. And there's a separate line item for the salaries for the elected officials, the township supervisor, township assessor, township clerk, and town board. Other salaries groups together, other employees within that division, such as other employees in the assessor's division. There are 4 people that work in the assessor's office. There's the elected assessor, and then there's 3 employees. So those 3 employees, all of their salaries are grouped under other salaries. So it's only the elected officials that have a separate line item.
Any other questions? Is there any discussion? Yes, Carol?
Would it be appropriate to provide, or does the body have the authority to provide for the calendar of the town meeting and the archives of the minutes through the years to be on a website created for that?
They are.
As I understand it, they already are.
They're only, the city provides that.
It should be on the city website.
Archive to be minutes of town past town meeting?
And are you talking about the annual town meeting or just the regular monthly town?
This body.
Okay, well, that I'm not sure about.
And then just know, that this meeting exists. Something that just describes kind of this meeting.
Okay, that's what we should
Rules,
do. Carol, I
things.
suggest that you bring that up at our next regular board meeting, so that we can pin down exactly what we should be putting up on the web. I think that's a good topic for discussion at a regular board meeting by the board members and trustees. So I think it's something we can easily do. What we'll need to do is go back and get the minutes as they exist for a certain number of years and get them put up on the web. I think this meeting's being taped, video taped, so we'll be able to put up video broadcasts. Yes?
I was on the web today looking for the agenda for this meeting. The agenda for this meeting was not on, but agendas and minutes for the past are archived. I don't know how far back it goes. And Phyllis said that she was attempting to get it up for today, get the agenda on today, and said that she would do so in the future.
Okay. I think one of the things we need to address is a specific location for township items on the city's website. So I think it's a good topic for discussion at a regular board meeting, and I'll ask them to put on the agenda for discussion. Since I am one of the members of the township board. Yes, Carol?
I believe that town board meetings are up as a board commission of the city of Urbana, but I do not believe the annual town meeting is archived or the schedule of the.
Right, it is, I suspect you're
I
right.
do not
That's-
agree with this.
Oh, okay, well, we'll go figure it out. We'll put this on the agenda, we'll figure out what's there and what's missing, and we'll make sure that it happens. You're right, it's important to get as much of this out there as we can. Is there any other discussion on the financial report? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item is a resolution declaring personal property of the town of Cunningham to be surplus and authorizing sale of such property to the city of Urbana in 2012.
There are many ways that the township can dispose of property that is either not useful or broken, and this is one of those ways to do it. We have to document any equipment we have and when it leaves us, so that's the purpose of this resolution. It's equipment that is no longer being used, and we will pass it along to the city, who then will take care of it for us.
Okay, and you will find the list of items on the resolution itself on the third page behind the agenda. And just real quickly, the personal property declared surplus is a black four-door cabinet that's broken, a cabinetry shop, Zoom camera, a typewriter, a Bell answering machine, 2 old computer speakers, and so on. So that's some small, minor office equipment. A motion to approve this resolution would be in order.
I move to approve the resolution. Mike Lehman.
Mike, what would you like?
Mike Lehman.
Mike Lehman makes a motion. Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
It's seconded by Diane Bezick. Diane? I'm losing names here, sorry.
It's because you're sitting here in front of me.
Yeah, I should be able to do it, but I'm trying to read and track everything. That's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion of the resolution to surplus this equipment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is approved. Okay, next is the time and place of the next annual meeting. It is set for the second Tuesday in April, April 9, 2013 at 6 p.m. A motion to accept this would be in order. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Diane Marlin. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Carol.
Do we need a place?
That is determined by the agenda and the town board at the time that the agenda is presented in draft form. It says time and place. How does that work when we switch it?
Well, I think this meeting we designated to be at the township office, but when we realized that there was additional agenda items, we changed the location to here to accommodate people. And you could schedule it for the township office again. And we would do the same things depending on the agenda items. Or the council chambers.
Okay. Is that clarification acceptable to the motion?
Yes.
Commissioner? And the seconder?
Yes.
So the time and place of the next annual town meeting will be the second Tuesday of April, April 9, 2013 at 6 p.m. at the township offices unless it's determined that we need to relocate to a bigger venue. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Okay, next up is advisory referendum question number 1. I'm going to read it. And this was as it was turned in on the petition form. Is that correct, Carol? Okay. So item first resolution reads: the U.S. Supreme Court held in Citizens United versus FEC that corporations have all the rights of real human citizens and are entitled to spend unlimited amounts of money in support of political campaigns. To undo that decision, the people of the Cunningham Township support an amendment to the United States Constitution to establish that 1, a corporation does not have the same rights as an actual person, and 2, money is not speech, and therefore regulating political spending is not equivalent to limiting political speech. And then the correct, was this a correction or is this a correction to that?
That is actually an amendment to, because the one that you just read is the one that I received from him. I did not receive the other one prior to putting it on the agenda that way, so.
Because there's no whereas or.
No. It's right here.
That's the second one.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So which one did you read?
well, I just read this one, it ends with money is not speech.
Okay,
So,
and then this is the amendment that we're going to
okay, I
have.
think this,
based on that.
okay, so I would consider, this might be considered a correction, then, wouldn't it? Okay, so the part that's been added to the original term is, we further request that our city, state, and federal representatives enact resolutions and legislation to advance the two positions proposed as part of the amendment with reference to the need for an amendment. Is that the way it should have been stated?
That's as it is printed on the petition. The first part was in an email.
Okay, so some confusion. I think I will let you make that as a correction, and somebody needs to make a motion accepting this proposal, this referendum question, with this correction. Is there a motion to place this referendum question on the ballot in November?
I move that the question be put on the ballot.
It's been moved
Home Milton and Alabama.
with this correction.
Yes, with the
With the
correction.
correction. Is there a
Read it
second?
again.
Okay, I'll read it again. Okay. The U.S. Supreme Court held in Citizens United versus FEC that corporations have the right of real human citizens that are entitled to spend unlimited amounts of money in support of political campaigns. To undo that decision, the people of Cunningham Township support an amendment to the United States Constitution to establish that a corporation does not have the same rights as an actual person, and two, money is not speech, and therefore regulating political spending is not equivalent to limiting political speech. We further request that our city, state, and federal representatives enact resolutions and legislation to advance the two positions proposed as part of the amendment with reference to the need for an amendment. That's as corrected. Is there a second?
I just think that.
We need a second here. Second. It's been seconded by Michael. Yeah. Right on all of us.
Michael's actually.
Okay.
Everybody knows me as Richard.
Is there discussion?
I think it's unclear what it is we're voting on. When you have that third one, it seems like, first of all, we agree that corporations don't have the same rights, but then there is how to do that, and you're opening up several other options that make it more vague as to what the public is actually voting on. Maybe that part should come later after this part's approved.
Could we ask that that part be read again slowly, so?
Yeah.
The piece that's been added is a correction, though it was not part of the original petition.
The one that he emailed to me is the one that I have right there that he gave. And he's saying that the last part is showing on the petition that he turned in.
Okay, so the petition that's turned in is what we should be working from. So and that last part says, we further request that our city, state, and federal representatives enact resolutions and legislation to advance the two positions proposed as part of the amendment with reference to the need for an amendment. Okay, and I think I can explain how that would work. If this proposal is placed on the referendum, it's an advisory referendum to the city council, they would basically, this directs them to put forward resolutions requested from our federal and state legislators to enact an amendment that would basically reverse Citizens United. Is that the way to put it? Yeah. Diane?
What language actually shows up on the ballot that the voters will see?
I
Is it
believe-
clear from this?
I believe it would be the entire wording here. This is what was turned in on the petitions. This is what needs to appear on the ballot, according to Fred Grosser, our attorney. So word for word, what's on the petition is what will appear on the ballot.
Well, I thought the issue was to first get a township agreement And if you have several township agreements, then you move it further to the state. So it's all, I just think it ought to start here.
Well,
People say here without.
Well, what this petition does is it puts an advisory referendum on the November ballot to the people of Urbana.
Right,
Which is
the
Cunningham
first
Township.
two parts stated quite clearly as to what you were voting yes or no. The third part is kind of a given, I think, if you agree with the first section, you know. You think you'll have the third one now? You think, see, that's what I'm
Let's
not
start
sure.
here, Mike.
My understanding is that it clarifies that it's not just that the citizens want the township to adopt a resolution, but that then they want to encourage other bodies to in fact go ahead and reference that and use that. So what it is it's intended to extend it beyond simply the township voting, is what my understanding of it is.
I think Carol can help clarify this. Carol Elliott is the supervisor, by the way.
Yeah, the township code covers the annual township meeting, and it talks about the powers of the electors at the annual town meeting. And this falls under approving advisory referenda to be placed on the ballot at the next election. It has nothing to do with the township agreeing to do anything. It's simply one of the powers is approving an advisory referenda addressing a public policy question. So we don't have agreements with just the township or the city. So that's the purpose of this meeting.
I would just like to comment, I think, kind of following up on what already has been said, I think that what happens by incorporating that third paragraph, if you will, or that third section, the paragraph we're calling the correction, is that it essentially moves the agenda further. That is to say, it says not only that the locality basically agrees with those first two main clauses, but that the locality then, in a political sense, will try to advance, with whatever means it can, an agenda to move those other higher level bodies, state, et cetera, to advance this. So it's very much really trying to make this particular advisory amendment, or advisory referendum, something that also outlines, of course, a political action. And I think that that's, in fact, a very positive thing to do.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Please state your name and your
Paul Nolan, and the way I understand this is the first section, which begins the U.S. Supreme Court, specifies the situation as it is now. It asks in general that the supporting amendment to the United States Constitution, the 2 points following are specifically what is going to be asked, and that the correction, which is how it's been referred to, is explaining specifically how that those 2 points are to be carried through. So I see the correction as an integral part of the entire statement, the entire referendum. It's saying, okay, we've established this, now what are we going to do with it?
What's the other hand? Okay, just so people know, in Chapter 60 of the Illinois Consolidated Statutes, 1/30-205, Section 30-205, advisory referenda. By a vote of the majority of electors present at the town meeting, the electors may authorize an advisory question of public policy be placed on the ballot at the next regularly scheduled election in the township. The township board shall certify the question to the proper election officials who shall submit the question in accordance with the general election law. So that's what these two referendum questions fall under. So the correction is as was turned in on the petition, that according to our attorney is what should go forward. Is there further discussion on this? It was moved by Mike. Was that? Did you make who made the original motion on this? Trying to remember where they came from. Okay. Is there any further discussion on this referendum question? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, I ask those who are in favor to please hold up your blue yes card. And count. Huh? Those opposed, please hold up the red one. Are there any opposed? There are none. This referendum advisory question will be placed on the ballot. The next advisory referendum question, a request of the city of Urbana established by ordinance that such privately owned public spaces respect the right of polite, non-disruptive political speech. And I'll read this one. Whereas expensive media campaigns have recently largely replaced ordinary political conversations between citizens, and whereas much of the public space in which such conversations used to take place has been replaced with private malls, and whereas since 1980, the state of California has successfully required that polite, non-disruptive political speech be allowed in certain privately owned public spaces such as malls and parking lots, we request that the city of Urbana establish by ordinance that such privately owned public spaces respect the right of polite, non-disruptive, free political speech. Is there a motion to put this referendum on the ballot? Moved by Michael Weissman. Is there a second? And seconded by Michael Cunningham. Layden, I'm sorry. I just remember the email days here. Is there discussion?
Just one comment. Hello, Carol Cruz. Just one comment. The last paragraph for privately owned public spaces refers to malls and those sorts of things. I'm sure the people here may be aware of it. A couple of years ago, there was a discussion regarding public access to free speech, Lincoln Square. And the issue is it was defined as public, but in fact, taxpayer money can supplement the construction on several projects at the mall. And I would like the citizenry to be aware of the fact that much public property is developed and supported through taxpayers' money through TIF districts and permits, and then in fact to declare these types of areas as purely private property, I think is a misnomer. And especially the city council should be aware of the fact that when taxpayers' money are used for these types of developments and purposes, that there be some statement included in those agreements, especially that would be used for public spaces, that non-disruptive public speech be included beyond what this referendum is asking.
And then Mike had a couple, likewise with this next. Carol?
Would it be completely clear from legal stuff, laws, that leaflets, pieces of paper are free political speech? That's a question I have.
I think the way I understand this is that the city of Urbana would be requested, if it were to pass as an advisory referendum, basically request the city of Urbana establish by ordinance the process by which speech could take place in these private public spaces. And at that time, I think you would define exactly what is allowed. I think that was what Mike was going to try to sort of work into this with his corrections. But since our attorney says we can't make corrections, we could probably put those corrections on the floor here for Fred Grosser to review, which is what I suggested earlier. Or we could simply go with this. Mike?
Well, to really make a law, we have to go way beyond the corrections to specify things like, for example, you can hand leaflets to people, but you can't put them on their windshield and so on. So the correction is just one small step to reassure people that there's some nervousness about the intended extent, but the extent would actually be defined by the city council when it got around to making a real law. It's way too vague. The point now is to call for a law along these lines. It's obviously too vague to be a statute.
So, Mike, are you comfortable just going with that?
Yeah, maybe it'd be good to have the other one in the record just in case it's okay with the attorney then. So you can do, so that they're both there.
Well, what we should do then is, why don't you read the correction that you'd like to suggest, and then we can...
Okay. Well, I think everybody has a copy of the correction, so perhaps it's not necessary to read it out loud. It basically just says, instead of saying spaces such as malls and large parking lots, it says specifically malls and large parking lots. Just to make it clear that we don't have something else beyond that in mind. There's a couple points in there where the wording just gets slightly more specific. Again, this is just a subset of the other. The other doesn't contradict this in any way.
Call for it to be read.
Okay. So I'll read it out loud. Whereas expensive media campaigns have recently largely replaced ordinary political conversations between citizens, and whereas much of the public space in which such conversations used to take place has been replaced with private malls, and whereas since 1980 the state of California has successfully required that polite, non-disruptive political speech be allowed at privately owned malls and parking lots, we request that the city of Urbana establish by ordinance that privately owned public spaces, specifically malls and large parking lots, respect the right of polite, non-disruptive, free political speech.
That's a possible correction. I think we sorted out by our attorney just to double check. So what I would suggest we do is take a vote on the referendum item as it's presented, and then as an alternate, take a vote on a corrected version, if that's something people would like to add to this particular motion. That way the attorney can sort it out and check the law books and so on. Okay. Is there further discussion of the original non-changed referendum question? Seeing none, all those in favor, please hold up your yes. Item. Count. Yes. 28. Okay. Those opposed? Any red ones? Seeing that, okay, the original as presented on the petition has been approved. Okay, at this time, I'd like to entertain for the record, what the attorney sorted out, I would suggest that Mike make a motion, making a change.
So I move we also, in case it's okay with the attorney, accept the slightly narrow version that I just read.
I second.
It's been moved by Mike Westman, seconded by Mike to make this correction. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we'll just put it down that if it's acceptable to the attorney to make this minor correction, it was a majority vote to make this small change to the as presented petition item. Okay, if there is no further item listed on the agenda, so a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Been moved, and seconds in the back there. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.